All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. So less than a day from now, the Detroit Lions will be playing against the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game. Unbelievable. First things first, this is the Detroit Lions' first NFC Championship appearance since the year 1991. In fact, the Lions had one playoff win prior to a couple of weeks ago since the year 1957. 1957. Now, it's not going to be easy. You're playing one of the best teams in the National Football League, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Lions actually haven't beaten San Francisco in San Francisco since 1975. And the point I'm trying to illustrate here is this isn't your typical Detroit Lions team. This isn't your typical Detroit Lions season. They are special. And I am very confident that they are going to go into the Bay and win this football game. And we're going to talk about why in today's video. But before we do, if you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content, Lions fans. You guys have had my back for so long. I appreciate you guys so much. I cannot wait for this football game. But before we get into the actual video, if we could try and get this video to 500 likes, that would mean the absolute world to me. So one thing I noticed, first off, injury report. All right, Khalif Raymond's out. Jonah Jackson is out. Deebo Samuel is in. We'll talk about all this stuff more towards the end of the video. But most importantly for the Detroit Lions, James Houston is playing football. James Houston, for the first time since week 2 of this season, is playing football for the Detroit Lions. Guys, this is the player who in 140 snaps last season, the rookie, had 8 sacks in 7 games. In those 7 games, the Detroit Lions went 5-2. And the point I'm trying to illustrate here is, games are won and lost in the trenches. And obviously, you got turnovers, you got a bunch of different other statistics, but you win and lose in the trenches. And the Detroit Lions have one of the best offensive lines in the league. The San Francisco 49ers have one of the best defensive lines in the league. And when we look at the Detroit Lions defensive line versus the San Francisco 49ers offensive line, that's where, for me, things get pretty interesting. So Aidan Hutchinson, here's a stat from 20 Man. Aidan Hutchinson had 118 total pressures currently this far in the NFL season. That is number 1 in the league. In the last month specifically, he has had 8 total sacks, 10 tackles for loss, and 18 quarterback hits. 4 games. That's the last 4 games, folks. He's going to be going up against Colton Mikovits for San Francisco. Now, he's allowed 9 sacks, 38 hurries, 52 total pressures this season. He's graded as the 57th best tackle in football this season by PFF. Now, this has nothing, I'm not trying to rag on this dude, but my point is this. Aidan Hutchinson is a superstar. He's at least a star in this league. And now I have James Houston back. And I remember going back, if we turn back the clock about 2 months ago to the trade deadline, you heard rumors, right? Brian Burns, right? Chase Young, who San Francisco ultimately ended up getting. We heard all this talk about getting another edge rusher for Detroit because Aidan Hutchinson's a freaking star athlete. And, the Detroit Lions defense is still technically a work in progress, although they're making and have been making very big strides. Folks, Aidan Hutchinson's going to do his thing this upcoming tomorrow. Tomorrow, Aidan Hutchinson is going to do his thing, right? And James Houston specifically, on the other side of Aidan, anything I can get from James Houston, anything I can get from even my defensive backs, even my safeties, man, Mel Vonwu, Brian Branch, CJ Gardner-Johnson, everything else is only going to help Detroit. Now, here's my point. All right, and we have some fun statistics here. A couple of days ago, I was mentioning how I think Jared Goff's a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. And once again, I just have to continue to reiterate this fact. This video has nothing to do with this. I'm not trying to rag on San Francisco. Jared Goff currently, and should be, is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy, right? But in the trenches, the Lions have 2 players, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs specifically. Obviously, there's other help, but the Lions in the last 2 playoff games have had 25 carries each game, all right? And that's important because Jahmyr Gibbs is Jahmyr Gibbs, even though he's a rookie, and David Montgomery has been doing his thing all season. As we saw in the Packers-Niners game a week ago, Aaron Jones kind of lit him up. And we saw that this Niners defense And the Niners team in general is actually beatable. And so when we look at San Francisco, they've got playmaker after playmaker, right? CMC, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. But then when we take a look at the defense, you got guys like Greenlaw, you've got Fred Warner, you've got Bosa, you've got Hargrave, you've got Chase Young. But San Francisco is 3-4 when their opponent runs for over 100 yards. When they don't run for over 100 yards, San Francisco is 10-11. Now, Detroit, on the other hand, is averaging 136 rushing yards per game. They're one of the best rushing units in the National Football League. They have only failed to reach 100 rushing yards 4 times this season. They're 5-0 when they have a 100-yard rusher. Now, I don't really love that statistic because I have Jahmyr Gibbs and I have David Montgomery, and both have to get carries. And when you're given, let's say I was giving David Montgomery 15 carries and I'm giving Jahmyr Gibbs 10 carries, it's like a crazy 1-2 punch duel. So I don't love that statistic, but it doesn't really matter. We reiterate the fact that games are won in the trenches. And so when I look at this Detroit team and I'm thinking to myself, all right, Jared Goff's been doing his thing all season. Jared Goff's been doing his thing his whole career. He's been in situations like this. If Jared Goff specifically can keep it clean and not throw any interceptions, and even though San Francisco has a good rush defense, and even though they have a really good defense in general, dude, if Detroit gets the ball to start this game and they go down and they put a touchdown on the board, everything changes. And we said this last video, we said this last week. If the Lions are winning the football game at halftime, they're winning the football game. All right? But I think and guys, like we've been talking about this on the channel all year. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta. And I want to pinpoint Jameson Williams. We've been talking about him all playoffs. He's had a really solid playoffs, all things considered. Like statistically, it's mainly going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? It's mainly going to be Sam Laporta as far as receiving yards or receptions or whatever it is. One big flaw that San Francisco has are their safeties. And we know a couple of things about Ben Johnson and the Lions offense in general. They're going to be versatile. They're going to be creative. There's going to be a handful of deep shots in tomorrow night's game. And I'm looking at a guy like Jameson Williams where, you'll just have these big-time plays, these big-time playmakers. And even though they're so young, they're so youthful, I'm looking at guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Jameson Williams stepping up tomorrow. And I know this video is kind of all over the place. I just feel so confident that Detroit's going to win this football game. I think it's going to be a really good, really close game. But I have so much faith in Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, Aiden Hutchinson, Brian Branch, Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, all these players. Like, this is going to be a phenomenal game. And James Houston being back is huge. This momentum that Detroit has right now all season is huge. And I guess this is just kind of a Lions hype video, but they're going to win tomorrow. All right. And this is not a jinx. Maybe we're going to cut this video. I could get on a tangent here about jinxing. Hit the like button, hit that sub button, but most importantly, especially for my Lions fans, give me a final score prediction for tomorrow night's game. Peace.